Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dad Reads a Bedtime Story. We're going to keep it going. Since we finished that last book, today we're going to read this book, which is called Bugg and Buggarroo by Stephen Cosgrove. And the cool thing I like about these books, these are the topsy-turvy books. So if you finish one story too quickly, you can always flip it over and get started on the other side. So let's go ahead and get started here with Bugg and Bugg. As you lay on a crisp fall day in a warm and sunny place, don't look up to the skies. Instead, look down and squint your eyes. Squint your eyes so very tight, and if you wish with all your might, you'll find the land of more than small. For in this land live bugs. That's all. There was a good side to Bugville in the land of more than small. There was also a bad side. There was the east side and the west side of town, but one of the best sides was the cute side. This was part of the town where everything was a little brighter. Every bug was a little cheerier in the sometimes dreary world on the cute side of Bugville in the land of more than small. It was on this side of town that the Flicker family lived in a cute little house. There was a mother and a father Flicker, a tiny baby called Flea Flicker, and the older child who was called Snug. All of the Flickers were cute, and Snug was the cutest of them all. He had cute little cheeks that dimpled when he smiled, and he wore cute clothes that his mother bought him whenever she went into town. It was often said that Snug was cuter than a bug's ear. There's Snug if you guys want to see. Snug was so cute that whenever his relatives came to visit, the overstuffed aunts would always rush over and hug the stuffing out of him. Yes, Snug was the cutest bug in Bugville. Snug began to hate the word cute. He hated his cute little cheeks and he hated his cute little clothes. He wanted to be something else. Snug wanted to be rough, tough, and tumble. He always rushed outside in the morning, right after his mother had helped him get dressed and messed up his clothes and his hair. Then he would look at his reflection in a puddle and make terrible mean faces. But he was still cute. Snug didn't know what to do and probably would have stayed cute to this very day had he not gone to the movies one fateful afternoon. Instead of seeing a cute cartoon, his normal fare, he saw a tough movie called Rambug the Avenger, the story of a big tough bug who saved the world with hand grenades and fists of iron. Snug sat in his seat at the old JoJo B Theater and watched the show 3 or 4 times. Finally, he had his answer. The way not to be cute was to look and act rough, tough, and tumble. From that day forward, Snug tied a rag around his head, just like Rambug the Avenger. He wore tough clothes and combat boots and snarled at the flowers as they grew in the garden. Snug was learning how not to be cute. He finally felt uncute enough to storm downtown. He swaggered instead of walking down Main Street, looking at his reflection in the windows of the stores. Sure enough, it wasn't long before some bug said, "Look at Snug, dressed up tough. Isn't that cute?" Snug was hurt, so hurt, in fact, that he kicked a baby bug who happened to be in his way. That wasn't cute at all. The baby bug burst into tears. "Why don't you pick on some bug your own size?" said the baby bug's mother. Rough, tough, and tumble Snug just couldn't help but feel bad at what he had done. "I'm sorry," he said as he wiped tears from the baby bug's cheeks. "I didn't mean to hurt you." And with that, he gave the baby bug a hug to take away all the hurt. Snug would have given up his search for toughness right then and there had not Letitia Lovebug walked by and murmured, "Oh, isn't that cute?" He turned and snarled to the world and stormed off down the street, looking for some bug his own size to pick on. He smeared some mud on his little bug cheeks and thought tough Rambug thoughts. He thought, and all of this would have stayed only dreams, except that eventually he began to believe that he really was tough, really tough. It was about this time that he ran into Bubba Big, the biggest bug in Bugville. "Hey, Bubba," Snug shouted as he swaggered up to this mountain of a bug. "Everything about you is big, even your mouth." And with that, he punched Bubba right in the knee. Bubba just stood there looking down, breathing kind of slow with a shocked look on his big bug face. No bug had ever punched Bubba before. Bubba was mad. Bubba was big. Bubba was gonna bust Snug, also known as Rambug the Avenger, into a billion bug pieces. Bubba not only thought big, he was big. Come on, cute feet, good moving. Don't wait for me, save yourself, sobbed Snug, realizing he had gone too far. He started running, with Bubba Big running right behind. Fortunately, Snug was small enough to slip through a hedge, which he did, and disappeared from Bubba's sight. Snug ran to his cute little house. He ripped off the rag that was tied around his head. He took off the tough shirt and the combat boots and slipped on his old, comfortable, cute clothes. Snug had discovered that you must be what you are, and when you try to be something different, you usually get yourself into trouble. Big Bubba Big was big bug trouble. But being cute had its advantages. Nobody wants to bust you into a billion bug pieces. They'd rather just hug the stuffing out of you. If you're tired of being as cute as you are, just remember Snug, and you won't go too far. The end. All right, let's flip it and let's get started with Little Buggaroo. I think we still got some time for a good bedtime story here. All right, Little Buggaroo. As you lay on a summer's day in a cool and shady place, don't look up to the skies, but instead look down and squint your eyes. Squint your eyes so very tight, and if you look with all your might, you'll find the land of more than small. And for in this land live bugs, that's all. North is north, and south is south, and east is east, but of all four directions, west is best. Just west of west, the tumbleweeds blew across the land. They bounced and blew for miles and miles and wouldn't stop until they came to rest on a rustic fence of wirewood pine. There, west of Bugville, lived bugs who were rough, tough, and tumble, like the plant named after them, the tumbleweed. A tough breed, these bugs of western Bugville, for they lived in a rough land. Out here, the bugmobile was replaced by the horsefly, a rangy beast with 4 legs instead of 2. Every morning, just after sunup and before the breakfast bell rang in the bug house, little buggaroos would mosey out to the corral and rope their favorite horsefly. Then, after saddling up, the buggaroos would ride hard to the north or south 40 acres, repair a fence or two, and then race back to the ranch in a cloud of grit and dust. This was all done before breakfast, not a minute after. The buggaroos started learning young. The youngest of the buggaroos was a little cow bug about knee-high to a grasshopper, called G-Hopper. He was a neat little kid who could ride any horsefly and rope anything and usually everything on the ranch that his daddy, Hop-Along Hopper, and his mama, Martha, owned. All the other buggaroos liked little G because he was a quiet, hard-working cow bug, just like the rest of them. G-Hopper, like all the youngsters in the land of more than small, had to go to school. Every morning at the crack of dawn, his daddy would harness a couple of horseflies and hook them to the bug board, a fancy kind of wooden wagon. Then they would hee-haw their way into town, bug bent for leather. The other young bugs at Buttonwood School made fun of G-Hopper. They called him Tex, or Plow Boy. Sometimes they make fun of his boots or the western shirts he wore, but G always kept his cool. He'd chew on a long stem weed and smile a shy smile as he moseyed on his way to Miss Grammer's class. One of the bugs who rasped a little louder than the rest was a stuck-up dude called Jitterbug. Now, Jitterbug was a real city slicker, and he didn't like G-Hopper at all. In fact, the fact that he didn't know G didn't matter. He simply didn't like him because he was different. No matter what G did, Jitterbug always tried to do it better. This competition could have gone on forever, except one day, Miss Grammer had a surprise. Today, students, she said, as teachers always do, we're going on a field trip. With that, her class, Jitterbug and G included, hopped on the bus and drove out of town. They didn't head south to the Bugville Museum or east to Bugville City Hall as they had in past trips. Instead, they headed west, out to the lone prairie, for Miss Grammer felt it was time these bug children from the city saw how bugs lived out in the country. The bus drove and drove as the little bugs sang songs and looked at all there was to see. As G was singing, Jitterbug tried to sing louder, and the competition continued even on the noisy school bus. It wasn't long before they came to the ranch that belonged to G-Hopper's father, Hop-Along. There they all piled off the school bus, rushing hither, thither, and yon. Hop-Along Hopper greeted Miss Grammer's class and then asked his son G to give the kids a tour around the ranch. G thought this was swell, and he proudly showed them all around the place where he lived and worked. He showed them the bug house where they all lived. He showed them the garden where Martha, his mother, grew most of the food they ate, and he showed them the corral where the wild horseflies were penned, waiting to be broken to ride. Jitterbug couldn't miss a chance like this, so he challenged G to ride one of the wild horseflies. G smiled one of his shy little smiles and quickly saddled up one of the rougher horseflies. He carefully climbed on the saddle, and with a he and a haw, he bucked and rode around the ranch. Jitterbug didn't say much. He just stood in the back of the oohing crowd and watched in grudging respect. Darn, he said, G is pretty good, but I'll find something I can beat him at yet. They spent the rest of the day watching G do all those things he was best at doing. G roped and tied a pony fly. He bucked hay in the fields. He even got to drive the tractor that pulled the children around the farm in a great wooden wagon filled with hay. Jitterbug was fit to be tied, for there was nothing he could beat G at. Yeah, look at Jitterbug. Late in the afternoon, every bug stopped what he was doing and sat down to the biggest country supper any of the city bug children had seen. There was corn on the cob, baked bean soup, and of course fritter pie. Sitting right in the middle of the table was a large platter of red peppers. Aha, said Jitterbug brashly. I've watched you rope and wrangle all over this ranch, and there has been nothing I could beat you at. But now I'll show you the one thing I can beat any bug at, eating. And with that, he began to stuff his face with food from all over the table. Jitterbug ate corn on the cob, but he couldn't do that better than G. Hopper. He slurped the baked bean stew, but he couldn't do that better either. Why, he even tried to out-eat G with the fritter pie, but that was G. Hopper's favorite. Jitterbug was so frustrated trying to beat G at something that he finally challenged him to a pepper-eating contest of red peppers. G looked at Jitterbug as though he were out of his mind and said, You go ahead, this time you win. Jitterbug laughed and stuffed a pepper in his mouth. Before he swallowed, he stuffed in another and another. Aha, he giggled, I win. And he chewed and chewed. It didn't take long before his face turned red and steam poured from his ears. He raced from the table to drink some water, a lot of water, for red peppers are the hottest ones around. Life is a game, or so they say. But if life is a pepper, don't bother to play. That's the end. All right, thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Dad Reads a Bedtime Story. Great having you guys here with us, and we'll see you tomorrow night.